Many of them
no
Republican,
judge looked at it
and said
they said we didn't have standing.
In this video, we're going to review how the moderators treated Kamala versus how they treated Trump. And then from there, we're going to review how both of the candidates did overall in the debate and why you should be concerned about it. It's not surprising that ABC is going to have a left-leaning bias. If anybody's watched the news in the last 10 or 20 years, especially ABC, you're going to notice that they have a left-leaning bias, particularly since Trump came into the mix. That's completely normal. Having a bias is unavoidable if you're a human being. The problem is when you get into a situation like moderating a presidential debate, you are expected to show fair and equal treatment amongst both candidates, regardless of where you are in the political spectrum. It's objectively true that the moderators fact-checked Trump 4 times and didn't do it to Kamala once. Now, Kamala said things that were patently false or intentionally deceitful, but for some reason they chose not to fact-check her. So regardless of the fact of what Trump says was or wasn't true, doesn't change the fact that they didn't care to give Kamala the same treatment. Let's just say, for the sake of argument, that everything that Trump said that was fact-checked was in fact false, and the moderators did the right thing by correcting him while he made a false statement. The problem is they didn't do that to Kamala when we know of multiple things that she said that was false. So let's look at those things that Kamala said that should have been fact-checked.
Tim Walz and I are both gun owners. We're not taking anybody's guns away, so stop with the continuous lying about this stuff.
We have to have a buyback program, and I support a mandatory buyback program. It's got to be smart. We got to do it the right way.
Do you believe in the mandatory buyback of quote-unquote assault weapons?
I do believe that we need to do buyback. Let's remember Charlottesville, where there was a mob of people carrying tiki torches, spewing anti-Semitic hate. And what did the president then at the time say? There were fine people on each side.
And you had some very bad people in that group. But you also had people that were very fine people on both sides. You had people in that group, and you had people, and I'm not talking about the neo-Nazis and the white nationalists, because they should be condemned totally. But you had many people in that group other than neo-Nazis and white nationalists, okay? And the Supreme Court had great courage in doing it. And I give tremendous credit to those 6 justices.
There is no state in this country where it is legal to kill a baby after it's born.
If a mother is in labor, I can tell you exactly what would happen. The infant would be delivered. The infant would be kept comfortable. The infant would be resuscitated if that's what the mother and the family desired. And then a discussion would ensue between the physicians and the mothers.
It's that a woman is about to give birth. She has physical signs that she is about to give a birth. Would that still be a point at which she could request an abortion if she was so certified? She's dilating.
Mr. Chairman, that would be a decision that the doctor, the physician, and the woman would make.
I understand that. I'm asking
point.
if your bill allows that.
My bill would allow that, yes.
She was big on defund the police. In Minnesota, she won.
Where do you stand on defund the police?
Look, right. So here's the thing. Defund the police. The issue behind it is that we need to reimagine how we are creating safety. And when you have many cities that have 1/3 of their entire city budget focused on policing, we know that is not the smart way and the best way or the right way to achieve safety. For too long, the status quo thinking has been you get more safety by putting more cops on the street. Well, that's wrong.
And then also, again, what we need to do about demilitarizing our schools and taking police officers out of schools.
On that point, Donald Trump, the candidate, has said in this election there will be a bloodbath if this and the outcome of this election is not to his liking.
Mexico has taken over a period of 30 years 34% of the automobile manufacturing business in our country. Think of it. Went to Mexico. China now is building a couple of massive plants where they're going to build the cars in Mexico and they think that they're going to sell those cars into the United States with no tax at the border. Let me tell you something to China. If you're listening, President Xi, and you and I are friends, but he understands the way I deal, those big monster car manufacturing plants that you're building in Mexico right now, and you think you're going to get that, you're going to not hire Americans, and you're going to sell the cars to us. Now, we're going to put a 100% tariff on every single car that comes across the line, and you're not going to be able to sell those cars. If I get elected, now, if I don't get elected, it's going to be a bloodbath for the whole, that's going to be the least of it. It's going to be a bloodbath for the country. That'll be the least of it.
Why did these moderators treat Trump and Kamala so differently during the debate? Christians are called to seek the truth because Christ is the truth. Both of these moderators are self-proclaimed Christians, and they're also journalists. Isn't their objective supposed to be to seek the truth over anything else? This is what happens when a society loses value in truth and favors narrative over truth. So a journalist like David Muir or Lindsay Davis can get away with something like this, and you'll have half of the country thinking that this was great. What they're doing is they're promoting rhetoric. This is exactly what Socrates hated when it came to the people in Athens. This is what he hated about democracy, was that people fall for rhetoric, and the same people are the ones voting for the people that get into office. The people Socrates complained about were the sophists and poets, ones who simply used rhetoric to tell people what they wanted to hear to get their votes, rather than actually tell them what the truth is. And funny enough, after a long period of time, the Athenians put Socrates to death for corrupting the young because he taught young people to seek truth rather than listen to rhetoric. Now, I'm not trying to say I don't like democracies, but I have to say Socrates did have a point. Ultimately, both candidates used tons of rhetoric and almost no arguments to defend why their policies or positions are better for the country. Mainly just yelling at each other or using ad hominem attacks, addressing points that were completely irrelevant to the questions and irrelevant to what's actually important to the United States citizens. At a minimum, our presidential candidates should be able to do this. They should be able to formulate arguments to defend their policies and positions. This shows you the sad state our country's in. Look at the arguments that our forefathers presented to each other while they were writing the Constitution, while they're drafting the Declaration of Independence. These men were brilliant. They were all trained and they knew basic philosophy and reasoning. They were able to articulate their positions clearly to one another. A comparison between our forefathers and the politicians of today would be at best embarrassing. This is the result of a society that is moving more towards secularization. As Christ becomes less important, so does truth. I leave you with a psalm. Psalm 146:3 says, "Do not put your trust in human leaders, as no human being can save you."